And we're back, hopefully with a stable connection this time. We have two guests joining us and starting the next block, that is strategy and management around D&I. So hopefully bringing as much methodology to the discussion as possible. Over to you, Sandra. Please introduce our guests.
Hello, hello. I have here with us Ola. Ola creates digital learning materials educating global AstraZeneca audiences around ethical themes. She also co-founded and co-leads the AstraZeneca Pride Poland, which was the first employee resource group in CE in AstraZeneca. Hi, Ola.
Hello.
We also have with us Anna Lorch, who is representing UBS Poland, where she's the head of compliance and regulatory governance, entity risk officer, management board member, as well as DEI leader for UBS in Poland. Hello, Anna. Great to have you here.
Hello. Hello. Hi, everybody.
Good. Finally, we've managed to connect, and our topic for this discussion is the following: leveraging your DEI ecosystem for greater impact, a systemic approach to D&I and its key high sensitivity areas. Let me start with the first question to you, Anna. Maybe let's start with you. We often talk about systemic approach to D&I or DEI. And I'm wondering, what do you exactly mean by that term? I believe different people can have different definitions. What's your definition of systemic approach or D&I ecosystem?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I agree with you. It's DE&I, especially for me. DE&I is not sufficient. But if we are talking about D&I ecosystem or systemic approach, we talk about the way of life. This is an integral part of the way we live and also the way we do the business. So that's systemic, continuous, inseparable, and hence sustainable. This is a part of the business strategy. It is a business strategy. It is also well governed and planned versus being spontaneous or having it ad hoc actions. But that will be covered, I believe, by Ola later. But just to confirm what I said at the beginning, the way of life, strategic, etc., I will give you an example. And the example comes from my area, the company that I represent, how we understand the way of life or way of doing business within the D&I concept. It's not limited to us, to the employees of UBS. Of course, this is about us, about our challenges, so that we want to create a thriving, diverse population or workforce, and making sure that everybody belongs or have this experience of belonging to the company. But that's not sufficient. Looking at the strategic D&I approach, we also look at the suppliers, diverse suppliers who do contribute to the economic growth, but in many cases such suppliers are underrepresented in the needs of big corporations. Also, we look at the clients. We are a bank, right? So we look at the clients, giving them advice, solutions to inspire the clients to connect with the people and empower them, right? And the last, but definitely not least, this is the community and society. So how we address the need of the social change, right? The equitable opportunities, for example, the racial justice or economic equality. So giving this example, I just wanted to prove to you that systemic and ecosystem, it means the way we live and the way we do the business. And this is planned, conscious, hence sustainable.
Thank you, Anna, for providing that explanation. what significantly resonated with me are those four major actors, clients, suppliers, employees, and the entire society as a players in that, let me use the word game in this context. Ola, how about you? What's your definition and how, or maybe you completely agree with Anna, maybe you would like to add something when it comes to defining the D&I ecosystem and the systemic approach to it?
I was going to say long-lasting, structured, and holistic, but I think what Anna said and the examples and the broad range of actors, let's say, she listed, gives a perfect definition.
Good. It's a nice start with agreement. Łukasz was worried that we will have too much agreement today, yet I think at the beginning of the conversation...
Don't worry, I will make sure you don't.
Good. Then let's start with further questions in that conversation, which I want to direct to Ola. And Ola, I wanted to ask you what factors we should be taking into consideration to talk about systemic approach to D&I, not so-called a project-based or ad hoc approach.
So I think the very, very important thing is to start with the basics. So perform a needs analysis, assess your current situation, assess your gaps. And it might sound like a project management 101, but this is a starting point for you to build strong and long-lasting foundations for further actions. So look closer at the actual needs of your colleagues. Look at your IT or HR systems, your benefits, your policies. And then with this wider and more accurate view, you will be better equipped for further actions. So this is one thing, those strong foundations and throughout analysis. And the second thing is resources. So very often in organizations, D&I is done by people who just genuinely care about it, but perhaps it's not their role. It's something extra. It's a passion project, a stretch goal, but in the long run, it is not sustainable. Not for the enterprise and not for the people doing it. So what would be ideal is to have a person who is dedicated to do inclusion and diversity, who has the mandate, who has the time, the resources, and who will have this broader vision of what is happening around your enterprise. Also, what can help is an executive sponsor. So that would be a top-down endorsement of all your initiatives. And just one last thing, it's important to stress that different organizations will have different degrees of maturity when it comes to inclusion and diversity. And that's perfectly normal, right? But in the long run, what's important is to have a structured approach and the right people that will deliver it.
Yes, definitely. We've heard a lot about importance of sponsorship in previous talks. I think here we also might ask ourselves if by just having a dedicated person, we are not running into the risk of the perception that, okay, there is someone that will take care of that. We, all others, don't have to take care of it. And do you have any observations around that? Or do you see it also as a risk?
I think the inclusion and diversity and equity is not about, like, it shouldn't be done by one person, because there is richness in our diversity that we all have in our enterprises, right? So it's finding a way to talk to people, seek this diversity, seek those experiences, those lived experiences and this knowledge, so that, yes, there is one person that coordinates things, but they are not the only one creating the strategy and embedding D&I in the enterprise.
Anna, what would you recommend to the companies at the beginning of their adventure with systemic approach to D&I? Like, what would be your roadmap to get started?
Actually, I do have some experience with, kind of mentoring some people who were starting D&I journey, but But generally, I did give them very similar advice to the one that I'm going to share with you. And I think agreeing with Ola, oh gosh, I'm sorry, it is the basics. But the basics are extremely, extremely crucial. So the first thing that I would say is start with us, with the senior management, with the management boards, with management committees, whatever we can call them. Not with them, not with employees. We are employees, so start with us to give a good and reliable starting point. Then, together with starting with us, let's think about why are we doing this? Is it because, you know, we are fair people? Is it because we understand the nature of a person or challenges of human beings? Or is it because we want to have more innovative people, so innovative products, being diverse organization? Or maybe because we want to have a good PR? Just think about it. What do we want, right? What is the reason? So the why is extremely important. When we understand what we want, right, is then we just think about the aspirational goals, what we want to achieve. Aspirational goals are not SLAs, right? This is nothing to do with the SLAs. Just think about something that you want to achieve. It can be anything. I can give you an example of one of the aspiration goals from UBS. So we said by 2025, globally, 30% of the senior ranks, senior roles, must be held by women. And full stop. No, that's not a full stop. That's the aspirational goals, because we understand our challenges within the global organization. Now, with that, we need to create a plan how to achieve that. So with that, you know, some examples like, you know, for the hiring panels, a woman must be included, definitely. Without that, we can't hire, right? We have talent programs, we have career comeback programs, women in technology, etc., right? So it has to be not just said out loud, full stop, but it has to be framed with the tools or the possibilities to achieve that. But then, I think, you know, very important.
Because there's a very interesting question that is addressing the topic that you are elaborating on currently. You said as what the goal you've said about women representation in the leadership position. It's about how to deliver on that goal. Yet there is a question from Miguel who is asking how to set those goals. So basically, the process that is leading to setting the number, let's say 40% of women by the given year in those positions, right? So like, can you reveal something more about the process behind setting such aspirational goals?
Absolutely. It really depends on the company. I represent a bank with 150 years of heritage, right? So that's specific environment. But, you know, each company can be different. Some companies are comprised mostly, and that I had experience with of people from different countries, right? Not Poles, rather than people like foreigners. There could be companies who comprise of very young people or senior people. So firstly, think, review the data, whatever you can get access to, because of course that is not that easy. GDPR, etc., is really taking care of access to personal data. See what is the challenge of the organization to make it more diverse. What could be useful to make it more diverse. When I said about UBS, I talked about this 30% of women on the senior roles. But guess what? In UBS in Poland, that's not a challenge, right? The aspirational goal is already met. But that's not the point. The point is about the global footprint, right? But here in Poland, we can think differently, right? What about disability? That's something which we see as a problem in the country. Of course, in the company as well, in the country, that we can do much more. So think that way and set aspirational goal around what you need to achieve. Review what you need, right? It's not that difficult, but then start from something. So set a network. Let's say ability or disability. And I also had a question in the past that, but nobody wants to lead that network. That's fine. Make us the leaders. Why don't we start as a leader of ability network, even though I'm not a person with disability? I can be the leader of the network. Start with us.
That's absolutely true. And what we also observe are limitations to taking certain actions in the organization. And those limitations might be budget, time, all type of resources. And here I would like to hear from Ola some insights on how to deal with those limitations in the organization.
Following on what Anna just said about the employee resource groups, my first advice to help your D&I initiatives in your organization would be support your grassroots initiatives, support your employee resource groups, because these are people that care, that have the passion for IND, that will want to organize events, raise awareness about certain topics, and have the knowledge and lived experience that will, you as an organization can benefit from. So I would say tap into this pool of dedicated people. And another thing would be to start with those relatively quick wins. So it's not realistic to want to change whole systems overnight in the enterprise. But there are things you can do and that will have a big impact, and you can do them at relatively no cost. So one of those things is language, and that literally sets the tone for your enterprise. So pay attention to how you communicate externally, for example, in the job offers, and how you address your colleagues internally too. Perhaps encourage people to add their pronouns to their email signatures and also explain the why behind it. You can also add an inclusion and diversity session to your onboarding process. So that's relatively easy to do and will show all newcomers that you are committed, what are those commitments, and how people can engage. And one last thing, those quick wins are not the end goals in themselves, because we want a systemic approach, not those project-based things, but they are a great starting point and will give you leverage, those small successes, to go even further and do bigger things.
Now, this is really interesting to listen to, I have to say. We're talking about an aspirational goal, an example of having 25% women represented in any given institution, and we hear it quite often. But of course, one of the biggest objections you hear to a position like that, if you have aspirational goals like that, which allocate a specific percentage of women in a specific organization, a lot of people see it as discriminatory, of course, especially when you make it part of the process. We even have a question from Emily along those lines. On setting diversity targets, does setting a percentage to reach not encourage positive discrimination through the hiring process? So that's Emily's question. And of course, why we surely agree that discussion panels at conferences would benefit greatly from a lot more balance in general. And as far as media voices, media representation is concerned, they would benefit greatly. But you cannot compare the two to the hiring context, can you? It's different. Blessed silence. Let's see.
It is different since there is a silence. But I would say concerning those quotas, let's say when employing people, I guess see what So, like, what's the people that surround you? Like, what is the division with, like, do you reflect the society in the people that you employ? And if you see those disparities, perhaps there is something you can change in your approach to employment.
Sure, in principle, it's a noble goal, but then again, you can think about it like that. There are thousands of jobs that prioritize physical strength, and for which, obviously, female roles would be more limited. And these roles are not the roles where women would aspire to gain more balance for obvious reasons. So parity is not universal, is it?
Now, can you hear me now? I think I have a problem. Okay, very good, very good. So we are not. I'm not talking about parity. It's a different topic, like a large topic.
Sure.
But if we start with the question from Natalie, if I recall the name correctly, about the 30%, Emily, sorry. Then this is what I said at the beginning. We need to see. We need to understand our requirements, the company's requirement. Taking into account what you said, that some of the jobs may not be suitable for women because of some requirements of physical strength, that's fine. So this company may set totally different aspirational goals. Now, in my company, that is very much relevant because of the nature of the company. On purpose, I said about the bank of 150 years of heritage. You can imagine that we do have absolute majority of men in the organization. Now, understanding the balance and the requirement of balance to extent we can achieve, we want to have more women. Is it 50-50? No, we are not talking about 50-50. And with that, we set aspirational goal. It doesn't mean an SLA. And I did say that on purpose. This is not like saying we are red or we are green. This is what we are striving towards.
It would be hard to disagree with that. However, what we can also say is that the moment you have an aspirational goal like that, it inevitably means introducing some kind of discriminatory factor in your hiring process, doesn't it? No?
No.
Not necessarily.
Absolutely
not necessarily. Not. All right, over to you.
No.
Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time, and that could be a very interesting conversation on its own.
And it will be. We have some time, and we'll be addressing this topic.
Definitely. Ola, Anna, thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure learning from you. And now we're getting ready for the next topic that it's also very much connected to D&I, and it's employee engagement.
Employee engagement after a short break. We're back with you.